Thank you very much, UNDESA, for allowing us this panel discussion. The panel discussion will involve very important organizations. I want to thank them individually. We are partners, so we know each other, but we have to introduce to you first. So I would like to start. My name is Giovanni Di Cola. I am special advisor to the Deputy Director General of the International Labour Organization. I also happen to be focal point for sport. And in that capacity, I've been working with UN agencies and sport organizations across over a number of years. And I have developed an area of interest, which is related to sport and sport through and in skills in sport and through sport. And then in doing so, throughout the years, and most recently, I came across those who are around the table today, and we developed some common interest, actually, which we want to talk about today with all of you. I also want to announce that this panel discussion, which is a side event of the UNDESA-led session, information session and summit today and this week, is also recorded. And the other issue that I want to say then is to start by asking my fellow colleagues and friends to introduce themselves, their name, the organization to which they belong, their role in the organization, and the relevance of the subject, why we are actually here together. Perhaps let me start with Carol Jimenez first from ICSS, International Center Sport Security. Carol,
hi, Giovanni. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here with you all today. And thank you again, UNDESA, for giving us the opportunity to be present in this panel. My name is Carol Jimenez, as Giovanni mentioned. I am from Colombia, and I am a senior manager at the International Center for Sport Security. During the last 10 years, I have been working in the domain of international development through different international organizations like Interpol, the United Nations Crime and Justice Research Institute, UNICEF, in Kosovo with the peacekeeping mission, and with different government agencies and international NGOs. During these years, I have been exposed to political, social challenges in post-conflicts and different countries. And all these experiences have confirmed to me the importance that has the development of skills for the young professionals and for everyone in their professional career. So that brings me of what I'm doing at the ICSS. As mentioned, I am the senior manager. And the ICSS is an independent and nonprofit organization established in 2010 to safeguard sports in terms of safety, security, and integrity, and to protect the opportunities a sport can generate in a socioeconomic context. We pay particular attention to the promotion of advanced policies and the provision of capacity buildings in the fields related to sport safety and security, sport integrity. And we have created an initiative that is called Safe to Dream that aims to implement and promotes activities to empower youth through safe access to sports and to its educational and social values. With Safe to Dream, we have implemented a series of Erasmus Plus projects that are related to the development of skills. One of them is empowering youth volunteers through sports, that is coordinated by the International Olympic Truth Center and supported by the United Nations Alliance of Civilizations, and aims to empower youth that are volunteering and develop skills for them for future employability and for social inclusion. We also have the integration of elite athletes into the labor market through the valorization of their transversal skills, Elitin, which is led by the Andalusian Swimming Federation in Spain, and looks to integrate elite athletes into the labor market through the valorization of their transversal competencies and supporting their dual careers. And the Skills by Sport for the Mediterranean, led by the University Institute of Lisbon and supported by the ILO. amongst other projects that we have for the development of skills, like our skills development and certification program that we're currently implementing at the organization. So that's in a nutshell who I am and the organization I represent here today.
Wow, that's quite a lot, Carol. We will get back to this, but you want to introduce somebody important in your organization
Yes.
next to you,
Yes.
please, before we go to Maggie.
Thank you. And I would like to introduce Emilio. Coming back to my skill certification and development program, Emilio was one of our e-volunteers and young professionals during this program that we have at the ICSS. And I'll give the floor to Emilio to introduce himself.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Giovanni, for the opportunity to also be here and participate in this panel. As Carol mentioned, my name is Emilio Valdez. I'm from Mexico. My background is an engineer, but I've had the contact with sports all my life, and coming from a developing country like Mexico, I had all the time like this hunger of trying to help through sports and understanding better how sports can develop society in a better way. So I decided to join AISTS 1.5 years ago to study my master's in sports administration here in Lausanne. And thanks to the master's, I got to introduce to ICSS, and I started working with Carol in several projects. One of them, the AVIL project, where we developed a lot of guidelines around how to share information to volunteers on what they can gain and what they can win through sports, and the values of volunteering in major sporting events. So for me, that was a very enriching experience, and that led me to where I am today. I think today I'm part of the International World Games Association, and I'm coordinating everything that is related to governance and sustainability. And I also think that part of this sustainability in organizations has to do with the social development of society, and sports can be one of the major enablers to help kids and young professionals to get introduced to a better and more healthier world. So yes, I'm creating this new strategy for them, and looking forward to this conversation today and sharing thoughts and opportunities here.
Thank you, Emilio. Maggie Cruz Blanco from ADECO Group, please.
Thank you, Giovanni, and thank you for the invitation and for this being part of this event. To all of you and UN, I think this is a great opportunity to promote the work we are doing together, but also to create a space for more recognition on skills learning and through sports, through employability. And that's key part of my role within the ADECO group. So I'm Maggie Cruz Blanco. I'm both Cuban and Swiss. And I've been in sports, I would say, since I am a young girl. I'm an athlete myself and working in the sport industry for over 20 years now. I've worked from academic to sports teacher to international executive. I've been working in the international sphere since 2005 with the IOC, with World Archery and FIFA. Joined the ADECO group in 2018. I'm the global head of the athlete programs, and I manage the partnership with International Olympic Committee and the International Paralympic Committee, and anything that has to do with sports and athletes' career transition, that's my responsibility. At the ADECO group, we envision a world where athletes are recognized as an unbeatable talent pool. We've developed a research that looks beyond the traditional ways of looking at athlete talent and skills learning in and through sports, such as teamwork or leadership. We want to look beyond that, and we've developed, like I said, a framework with 8 key skills attributes that athletes bring into the workplace, such as resilience, analytical skills, business acumen, communication. And this framework has now become a tool to measure as well athlete talent, to help athletes understanding how these skills translate into the world of business. And that is one of the key things that bring us into this panel, because this tool will help athletes in their career transition, but also help other organizations that are linked to the topic of skills learned in and through sports to also implement some of these tools across their organizations and the people they support. So I'm looking forward to the panel and looking forward to the discussions. Thanks a lot for the invite.
Thank you, Magi. Alberto was asking me something about the link. Do you think that we are on the good link, Alberto, or you want us to try the other one? Because I just I have another link here.
I don't think that. So this was the only link, Giovanni. This was the only link that was provided. So this is it. So there are no other links. This is it. But I was just questioning indeed the number of participants to this panel, because I can see just 9 participants. And so, but okay, I think that we have to continue. We will continue, no problem. But it's just
no, because I do have I do see another link. So are we on the correct one?
I think we are, Giovanni. This
okay, fine.
Only one link. Yeah.
Okay, fine. So whatever, we go ahead, Alberto. Let's. So it's up to you now, and I believe you also have a PowerPoint presentation. Feel free.
Thank you, Giovanni. Indeed, I also have a PowerPoint presentation. And so, of course, I would start by thanking ILO, ICSS, and the ADECO Group for our great activities. And for this panel, of course, UN, of course, we are here in this context. So very pleased to be here. And very briefly, I would like to present you in a maximum 8 slides what EPSI is and what EPSI does. So first of all, we have members and stakeholders all over Europe, as you can see from this chart, from this graph here on the left-hand side of your screen. And actually, the important thing of our members, of our constituency, is that they are formed by different stakeholders. So we have sports associations, federations, we have all the academia world, we have the industries. By the way, I personally represented the sports brands for 20 years of my life in Brussels. So all the Adidas, Nike, and Puma of this world. I was representing all the sports brands. So of course, this is a sector which is near to my heart. Then, of course, we have clusters, we have research centers, but most recently, we also have public authorities. So these are all the, I would say, the towns, the cities, the municipalities, but also the regional authorities, the national authorities, the provinces that ultimately have an important, I would say, impact also in the topic we are discussing right here, related to skills, of course. What do? We actually deliver our services in 3 main pillars. The first one is what we call lobbying and education. The second one is fundraising, and I have a slide on the fundraising side of things, because one of the idea that we have within this global network on skills in and through sports is indeed to present a project proposal, a little bit like the one that Carol and Emilio were referring to, this AVOL, where we're also part of. And so I think that the fundraising pillar is definitely one of relevance, because ultimately we would like to acquire new and sufficient financial resources that will allow this GNSS, how is it called, to really live in a long-term period. And then the last pillar is what we call the business creation. So not only do we want to expand on project, but we want to understand whether some of the deliverables of this project can have a second life in a commercial environment, and try to understand if indeed some of the deliverables, some of the objectives of this project can also become business opportunities. So these are all the different phases for a project development. I will skip this and I will go to this slide just to mention what we were able to collect over the last 3 years in the so-called project outline. And indeed, as you can see, one of our projects that we are very proudly engaged in, it's the number 5 on this list, is the one that Carol and Emilio were referring to, indeed the AVOL project. So very happy to be on board. And now, so the business creation is indeed, as I was telling you, the willingness to expand further and not only to receive public financial means to develop projects, but also understand whether, you know, some business opportunities can be created. And now related to the skills, because this is of the utmost importance. So what have we done so far? Well, first of all, we have tried to understand within our sort of constituency. You see that in the on the right-hand side of your screen, there are a lot of I would say EPSI stakeholders, of course, ourselves, but then we have the EPSI members, we have the EPSI strategic partners, we have the external advisors, and so on and so forth. So within these concentric circles, there are a lot of skills and expertise that are available. And we have indeed identified which are the key notions which can be connected to all these stakeholders. And what have we done along those lines? We have developed a mapping of skills that you can see on the left-hand side of your screen here. And we are indeed, I would say, developing, you know, the relevance, some kind of standard also for all these specific skills. And so this is as far as I wanted to go, Giovanni. And of course, I'm totally open for some additional questions, and I give the floor back to you. Thank you very much, Giovanni. Giovanni? I don't see Giovanni.
Giovanni is no longer with us.
Giovanni is no longer with us. Okay.
Let me try to call him.
Okay, I think that I think that's it. In any case, we can continue. We can continue. So we have the questions. This is a rather unusual situation where the lead
Alberto, part. I pass the moderator role to you. Please continue.
So okay, let us continue. You know, I think that ultimately it's a bit funny, but we'll try to do our best. Since we had indeed prepared this meeting well in advance, we have the set of questions that normally Giovanni should have asked, and I will try to ask them as they were presented. So actually, the very first question that I would like to ask is on what has brought us together, and why do we believe that indeed this is an initiative that we should embark in. And this is, of course, I'm referring to the GNSS initiative. So maybe first Carol and then Maggie, if you can very clearly ask us, respond to us on the why. Oh, in the meantime, Giovanni's back.
Yeah, don't worry. Yes.
So, Carol, can you please respond?
Okay. Yes.
Giovanni, just to brief you, Alberto has moderated the first questions, so I'm going to go ahead.
Fine. So in this case, I can respond to Alberto or not myself?
Yes, exactly. Yes. What brought us here today?
What brought us here today? Say, perhaps one issue that I think is important while we pick up the question from each other. why the ILO was involved with skills in sport. And then I want to focus on the issue of benchmark, which is what we did. Basically, some 10 years ago, 15 years ago, actually, there was the European Union funded almost 150 projects. EPSI was presenting the project that was successfully carried out with the support of EPSI recently. I think that was the first time where even before Erasmus plus sport originated, where actually projects on sport were funded by the European Union. And so we came across this with some interns and colleagues at the ILO, and we said, okay, but what this is in common? What is the common denominator of all these 150 projects? And we found out that the issue that was across all these projects were the skills. So all these were funding activities through sport, but in reality, every single project was promoting skills in a way. But it was not clearly stated, and we wanted to find a way to connect all of them. So we researched, and then we basically came up with the table of skills, which we then benchmark against employability skills. We selected the Commonwealth employability framework, and we found at the time that the skills that were actually from sport were far more detailed, far more appealing, far clearer than the table from the Commonwealth. So in other terms, we could understand better what the labor market was requesting in terms of employability through this table, which was sport related. So that was the beginning somehow of this discussion, but then throughout, particularly over the last 5 years, but let's say in a decade, a lot of different experiences were carried out in terms of skills. And this is how we connected all the 4 or 5 of us around the table. We connected together, ICSS, EPSI, ADECO Group, ILO, and then we wanted to discuss a number of limitations. So we are going to address this now. This is how the ILO came to engage with all of you, but we have different perspectives, which are very rich. And so I would like to ask you, so what is your perspective with respect to this? So Maji, what is the perspective of yours and also of the ADECO Group, please?
Yeah, so I think from our perspective, we look on both sides. So there is the support we want to give to athletes in their career transition and how they could translate those skills that they learn through sports into the next career in their life, and into that shift from the athlete identity to a new identity and a new role in the world. So that is one challenge that we address as the group to support athletes to become more employable, to increase their employability. And that is understanding, what do I bring from sports that helps me jump into that next step? On the other side is the labor market perspective and employers' perspective. So why should I hire an athlete? Why should I hire someone that comes from sports? Someone that may not have the same experience as other people that have been longer in the labor market? What makes difference? What makes them unique? What kind of talent do they bring into the labor market that help us as employers to have probably a competitive advantage, to be a game changer when it comes to the different industries that athletes join or people that practice sports in general? So those perspectives are really important. And how you explain that to both athletes and employers to build a bridge and connect athlete talent with the labor market is important for us as the ADECO Group, across all our brands, but also as someone who is considered itself as an activist to help those that are needing this in the labor market to make the future work for everyone. So I think that's one big perspective and why we come into this group as well, to collaborate. And it's also what we can learn from the different tools, because as you said, Giovanni, it's been a decade, working on this topic. But how do we unify all those learning into one space where we can continue learning, but we can continue evolving towards that recognition of sports, skills learning through sports, and employability. So I'll pass now the ball to my colleagues.
Yeah, that's a good. So this issue of unifying, perhaps not unifying the framework, but unifying the approach. I would like to ask Carol, what do you think is unifying the framework or unifying the approach? What is the impact for your organization in this, and to yourself, actually, in your views?
Well, Giovanni, and let me first say that I really highlight what Maya is saying of bringing the labor market into the conversation, because it has to be a conversation from the two sides. So at the ICSS, as you know, we have supported this or co-implemented this European Erasmus Plus program. We have one for the coaches, one for the athletes, and the one for the volunteers that we have mentioned. We have other for sports instructors, etc. Yes, they gain confidence, so they develop their skills. So they also, the sports people need to understand that they are also suitable and ready for the labor market, right? But the labor market has to be ready for them as well. So it's a great angle that I see that it brings to the conversation. And in this sense, it's where we as an organization, the ICSS, also embraced this development of skills. So we went for preaching, okay, you need to do the skills development, etc., to try to implement it in our organization. And that's why we developed the skills development and certification program, which is embracing these skills and these values at the core of our organization to create an institutional change and to make it happen also with our own people. We started with our young professionals and our e-volunteers, because the change and the youth, etc., has to be included in the change. And they have to be skilled with different skills for their future employability, and they will pass these skills to others, and it will be hopefully a snowball. I don't know how to say it in English. So for us, it was really important to embrace it. And it was an institutional Carol, change that is happening, yes.
If I may, because you said something about certification, which I think is important. So in other terms, you certify your own skills. You actually, did I got
well, no, let me explain. I was going there. So what we have done is that we have looked at our mission, and we have understood, okay, what is the values, what is that the ICSS wants to, as an organization through sports, acquire or implement in the society. With this, then we have doing like the benchmarks and the development of the skills that we believe are the core of people or for these young people to be able to go into the labor market, and also to have great, I don't know, people out there or supporting them in this. And then we have benchmarked these skills with our mission and our values, and we have defined them. We have explained, as Alberto explained when he, in his introduction, we have defined what do they mean for us. And then we have a program where a manager is responsible of supporting the development of the skills of these e-volunteers or young professionals. And then we will have midterm reviews, we will have daily consultations, we will have some tools developed by HR and ourselves to support in this process. And at the end of the time with the ICSS, something that we can really give to these people is to certify the skills that they have. And these skills is something that you don't gain through the university or through formal education or nothing. It's your regular interaction and your regular life working experience that will help you develop these skills. But how, like that's very difficult to sell. So we help with our certification of our certificate, we can attest that this person has developed or has strong skills in this and this and that. Okay. And this is how we try to do it.
Let me try to, because this I want to put the question for Alberto, who is he's in touch every day with a number of actors in the labor market, right? Companies and public-private entities and so on. So those two issues, Alberto. Number one, the issue of certification. So as indicated by Carol, is important to which extent you see this happening at the level of your own network. Number two, or platform, to be more precise. Number two, actually, the Maggie and Carol both indicating the issue of mismatch of skills. So we try to address the mismatch of skills. Said, you know, Carol even said, but even the labor market should be somehow prepared for it. So how do you see this happening at your level? How this conversation is basically impacting your organization and your memberships?
Giovanni, thank you for the question. I fundamentally agree with all what has been said up to now, and I will give my answers to your question. I would say orchestrated in some fundamentals. So, what are the fundamental pillars that we should all look at, according to me? First of all, what you have said is the relevance of skills. Skills is really such a horizontal topic that ultimately should be, I would say, all around, very clearly, I would say, targeted, because skills, as you've mentioned, it is horizontal. The other thing, the other fundamental that both Mahi and Carol have mentioned are definitely the relevance of these more vocational training skills, and I guess that along those lines, I mean, this is what we're trying to do, you know, at EPSI. So we're trying as much as possible to standardize. Standardization was also mentioned on numerous occasions, and we have already some frameworks, such as, for instance, the EQF, the European Qualification Framework, where you know, organizations, private-public partners can start standardizing this set of skills. But ultimately, it is the market that will dictate what is relevant and what is not relevant. And so, you know, the relevance of all the activities that we're trying to do is definitely in collaboration with other partners, and this is why I salute very much the GNSS initiative, that together with the ICSS, together with the ADECO group, and together with ILO, we are really trying to make a difference. So we need to, and this is maybe the last fundamentals that we need to concentrate on, we need to make sure that there is a momentum, a gathering of you know, of stakeholders around one same path. Okay, and then we definitely have to make the difference. We definitely have to start, you know, building the different blocks that allows us to, you know, make sure that skills, you know, as I would say, collected from the market, will be applied in the best possible manner. So these are the fundamentals that I would like to concentrate on, Giovanni.
Thank you, Alberto. So let's say we started with a set of skills from sport, as Maggi was saying, you know, particularly from athletes and so on, were very useful to the labor market. Then we shifted basically not only on the athletes themselves, but beyond the athletes. And then we find out that we, you know, basically we include and involve others. And among others, there is Emilio. And then we want to ask him, because he's not a professional athlete, at least to my knowledge. But so to which extent this competency framework, this skills framework, this focus on the skills, developing skills on the job, basically, as Carol was saying, is useful. Emilio, is that useful to your extent? To yourself, or we are saying something which is too complicated?
No, actually, I liked something that Alberto mentioned, and I was gonna raise my hand to comment.
Yeah, sorry.
But one thing that he mentioned is the fulfillment of needs that the market is needing at this moment in life, because we've been chatting between our friends that whatever we've learned in the past is different what the market needs now. So you have to adapt very quickly to what the market is actually asking for in terms of I don't know, being resilient to be in your place, really have this patience of, not going out, not being able to interact personally with people, which personally I love to be with, contact with people, but you need to really adapt. And then there is a very special skill that today I think it's really important for organizations to address and focus their attention in, which is the development of technology. Like everything today is moving towards this gathering of data, and what you can do with that data with all this new world. So really I agree with what Alberto mentioned and he said, and I've personally experienced it in ICSS. It was my first experience doing something voluntarily, graduating from my master's, and it was online. I was in Mexico, Carol was here, so we needed really to adapt our schedules to fit better our like everything. So I think really this pandemic has helped really to push forward the speed on how human beings are learning, or how humans are like really trying to get into the evolution of how industry is moving forward.
Yeah, connecting this with the digital transition. So we now have 3 points here, which have been raised by Alberto, Emilio. One is the GNSS, which stands for Global Network of Sport Skills. So we need to talk about it. So perhaps Maggi, you may wish to develop a bit further on this. The other issue that Emilio is prospecting, is saying, is that we are in the midst of various transitions. One transition evidently is the digital transition. This is impacting skills and the way we have to learn, the way we have to be able to communicate, the way we have to be able to fast track the approach of skills, of learning more generally. That's the second issue. The third issue is what is the prospect ahead? Because then how do we connect better when we want to develop this framework? So the first question is to Maggi. What can you say about the GNSS and how you would identify the GNSS with respect to other existing or network that you have been involved in, Maggi?
Yeah, thank you, Giovanni. I think that the Global Network for Skills and Sports, for me, it's something that it's been fundamental to create. We spoke in different ways, that recognition towards skills learning in and through sports. We, as a group of different stakeholders, have come together with all the work we have done over the years in our different programs and initiatives. And what we want to do is actually to create a space to share those initiatives, to support each other, consult each other on how we all have got there, but also what are the key things that we are doing to evolve as a network. I think as part of the evolution of this dialogue about skills and employability coming from sports, this is I would say a fundamental and logical evolution for all stakeholders. Why? Because there are different aspects. So it's the aspects of athletes, it's the aspect of people that practice sport regularly that are not necessarily athletes,
yes,
but still learn skills through sports. And on the context of the COVID-19, this is also quite important, because as we love people that have experienced sport throughout our life, we also feel the urgency to showcase the importance of those skills so that sports continue to be as one key priority for everyone around the world. So I think COVID has kind of brought that question, how all different stakeholders can come together and continue showcasing that sports not only bring your physical you know, I would say development, but also your skills development, and how we can continue putting that at the forefront, so that both the sports governing bodies, the labor market, and the different governments keep seeing the importance of sports through the life of people. And I think COVID, the world have changed in a rush, and we all have said, okay, in this panel, this also has influence, both personal and for organizations. So I think the global network for skill and sports has also a role in bringing that idea, that urgency to continue promoting those skills. So it's not only coming together, sharing what we have learned, the initiative, but also to continue advocating for those skills learned from sports as a big priority, I think, for all the stakeholders. So I think one important aspects within this context is how we do this, right, Giovanni? Mm-hmm. And how we as stakeholders see the future. And that's one piece that we discussed coming into this panel, you know, how we as stakeholders are implementing this. This is such a big topic. So one idea is the theory of change that we see as a key methodology for all of us to work together, and a key methodology that kind of explain what is the ideal end state on skills and employability learned in and through sports, and what is the recognition we want to see in the world, but also who are the partners that could help us in this process of making this network, I would say, more operationally active, and also to be able to increase the level of the network and the impact that we have as stakeholders. So does that help, Giovanni?
No, thank you. That's great. I was getting there. That was fast-tracked by Maggi. So I'm going to ask Carol and Alberto about this, because when we talk about theory of change, we want to address some results. We want to achieve results. Results of that have an impact on people, impact on institutions. But we also need to acknowledge the limitations that we have before us. And this is exactly why we have to select the kind of changes we want to achieve together. Because if we look at all the actors that you yourself have mentioned so far, labor market, training institution, vocational training, skills development institutions, and so on and so forth, we see that basically we are not in control of this. So the theory of change gives us more leverage, perhaps even some control on the results we want to achieve. But how do you actually roll it out, Alberto? And then Carol, at your own level, Alberto.
Well, Giovanni, thank you very much. Unfortunately, I don't have an academic background, so I'm neither a scientist nor a professor, but I've studied economics. And I guess that, you know, it's very relevant to make theories. And of course, I'm aware of the theory of change in general terms, you know, but I guess that, as you were mentioning, we have to be very practical. If I'm reading on our position paper, the paper that was indeed circulated with the link for this panel, we have a section of the GNSS, which is the purpose. Well, I like very much this section because it's 3 lines, and actually I would like to read just 1 line, which is, according to me, extremely relevant. And so this line reads: the network aims at organizing activities and promote the work of GNSS members, advocating for global recognition of sports skills and on the connection between sports and employability. So I'm hearing already that there is some lobbying activities that we need to do. And so I would start, you know, outlining specifically what are our lobbying objectives, who is going to deliver on what, with which resources, and in which time frame. So if this is definitely one specific objective that we want to focus on, and I totally fundamentally believe that this is one of the objectives. Of course, to carry out this lobbying and also to continue, collecting the different interested parties around this GNSS group, we need financial resources as always. And so how are we going to collect these financial resources? Is it going to be more public financial resources? Is it going to be more private financial resources? But indeed, this is another very clear objective that we have to very clearly, point out, so as to make sure that we will deliver in something. And then, I mean, we're all human being, we're all human being at the end of the day. If we want things to happen, well, we definitely want to wish to have a strategy to make sure that these things will happen, and I guess that this is the next step that, according to me, I'm not a scientist, and theory of change is fantastic, but ultimately what counts is the practical elements of things. And so this is what I would advocate for, and this is where I would go for. Thank you, Giovanni.
Thank you for this very practical approach to a theory of change, Alberto, as usual. Carol, so what would you add to the provocative statement by Alberto? And very grounded, by the way, very grounded.
I'll give you the floor in a minute, Diogo. Give me a second. I'll reply and then I'll go to you. Well, I actually will highlight the change that is already creating the global network for sports skills. And then again, I'm going to base it on my personal experience with the development of this program. We had an idea, we had a position or something that we thought it was important. But thanks to this global network, this idea or this dream that we had about creating these skills at the core of our organization, it became a reality, and it became a reality very fast. Thanks to what? To the peer-to-peer review. And I think that this is a great value that we have as a network, because we have great organizations with the same interest, with the same goal out there, trying to support each other to reach their best and to bring the conversation to the next level. So exchanging ideas, having these type of conversations amongst us, giving feedback. So what do you think are the new skills that are happening in the world? Because yes, we can have our benchmarks and then decide, okay, so these are the skills that are relevant for us. But as Emilio was mentioning, then we had all this COVID, then we have all this, how important is resilience, how important is adaptability, how important is connectivity in the nowadays. And this, thanks to this conversation and this peer-to-peer review, which I believe it's our great added value, apart from much others that we have, is what has brought this conversation to the next level. We only started talking about this very few months ago, and look at where we are now, already talking about theory of change and going forward. And it is only because we have committed organizations that are knowledgeable, that understand the subjects. Some understand one subject more than the other. Alberto knows very well the European Commission, the European Union, development of projects. Maggi knows exactly what the labor market is needing, the skills. The ILO, you have years and tons of experience of the development of skills and importance into the labor market. And this has all brought us together and have brought the conversation to the next level. So that I leave it there, and I give the floor to Diogo, if that's okay. To Diogo Guia.
Okay, good, Diogo. Yes, Diogo, go ahead.
Ciao, onorevole. Spero tutto a posto. Good afternoon to everyone. Hope you are all safe. My dear Giovanni, my dear Alberto, friendly faces and good friends. I take the liberty to intervene, although excusing myself for not being immediately in the beginning, and I might have lost some context, but let me, in a nutshell, tell me I'm offering my services and my passion as a lobbyist for this cause. I was very impressed when I read the first concept paper out of your hands, Giovanni. We have brainstormed a bit around the securing sport and following up, and let me resume my perspective in these terms. We have the challenging of the dual careers and the identification of skills that can, during the sporting career, be an advantage to go to the employment market. Once the athletes finish their careers, they tend to face the tough reality that they've lost years with their careers in terms of what is the competition skills required for the tougher, every year tougher employment market. And so we were challenged by these for many years. And in 2017, we built a partnership with the University of Illes Baleares in Mallorca, land of Trajano, and several clubs, sports organization, and like-minded organizations. Despite the pandemic context, we managed to close the project in the end of 2020. I've just shared with you, Giovanni, and with my friend Alberto, that is the leader of a new project that we are very enthusiastic about, Big for Sports. In another project, so called Elite In, was basically the challenge to identify transversal competencies with athletes during their careers that could be used for the employment, for better integration in the labor market. The project, I'm suspicious, but I think the project succeeded. We created lots of tools, and mainly I'm going to speak you about two things. You are speaking about the strategy and the method, and we were working towards the very desired European qualification framework to support dual careers. This is an aspiration of the European Union. And with this, we aimed at to put a brick in the wall. Elite In had the challenge to identify what skills are we looking for. We have the International Association of Psychology, trainings, the clubs, important clubs like Sevilla and others. And so we are challenged, what should we do? And we, as SS, we're responsible to build a charter, Elite In charter. And that charter should be easily understandable by the athletes and the sports organizations. And the aim was to create, to start a standard. So the first part of the process that we did was a questionnaire launched towards sports organizations and reference stakeholders and athletes to tell us what is the hierarchy of skills they deem could be improved during the sporting career. So if with your permission, Giovanni, if I can share here a document, I think it would be more impressive, but you have to authorize me.
But go ahead, but
Diogo, maybe it's better if you can share it through the chat, so everyone can see it and download it.
Yeah, it's what I'm trying to, okay, there it is. I was authorized.
Good, thank you. Okay.
So Diogo, let me ask you, because this is another point which you are bringing into the conversation. You are basically saying now that the focus of ICSS was also on developing further the skills of the athletes while they are still competing. Because before, Magic was saying, you know, we want to provide them with skills so that when they finish competition, they know what to do in the labor market. You are saying we want to improve their skills while they are competing. Can you give us examples? What are the skills basically that they would develop while they are competing that they didn't develop so far?
Okay, we had the responsibility, basically, ICSS Insight, to wrap up all the conclusions, all the training packages of Elite In project. So there was a diagnosis made in the beginning, a guide of backtraces identified worldwide, was conducted by the Olympic Committee of Bosnia and Herzegovina and our friends in Lithuania. And after that, we identified by blocks what are the main areas. It probably is more impressive and more clear to show you how the charter is aligned, because in the charter you will see what type of skills we have identified in result of the desk research, of the questionnaires, of the densification of the project by all partners. So we came down to these. That is the Untitled Charter. I'm trying to put, I think you are looking at it.
Yeah.
Okay. So the charter, this should have the logo of the European Commission because it was funded under Erasmus Sports project. So the charter deals with integration of athletes into the labor market through the valorization of their transversal competencies. Giovanni, you are free to circulate among the colleagues and partners that are in this call. We are translating these to several other languages, Russian, Chinese, Arabic, etc., to reach the world. So you have here the introduction and basically the objective. It starts from the observation that once athletes have finished their sports careers, they realize that it's very difficult to find a job due to their exclusive dedication. I will not read this, but I think the intro is clear enough for what we have worked here. We have taken in consideration, namely, the European Lifelong Guidance Policy Network glossary, so getting the closest possible to the language that is used in this field. So this is the introduction. The scope of the charter is to promote dual careers, being its main objective to work for the recognition of transversal competencies acquired by high performance. So we want to instigate the recognition and valorization. How? In practical terms, as we are going to show now. So I'm showing the charter, but I think the most beneficial intervention, and I want to keep it short, is the method that we use. I have a PowerPoint with 2 slides where I can easily explain this.
No, but I mean, no, let's focus on what here I can see persistence, resilience. Then
so behavioral
receive criticism, and then what else? Because then we focus on those issues. I want to ask something to Maggi on this. And then what else after receive criticism?
So after the behavioral skills, you will understand we have created, this is densified by academic partners and ourselves. I worked here, my partner is Mallory Tournois. As you know, she has a PhD of Sorbonne in sports integrity matters. So we worked very intensely on this. So these are the behavioral skills. Then a second block on the organizational skills. The social skills first. So how the time management, the teamwork. I don't want, this is simple as it is, but the process was very long. So it could be simple in this manner and easily intelligible. So here we have the section 3 with the organizational skills. These blocks were the blocks that were understood and convened. The method, after all the questions, after all the breaking rock, it was convened that this should be the final systematics. So all these skills that you have here are the result of hierarchies that were consolidated after 2 rounds of questionnaires, 2 long, extensive questionnaires procedures. Here we have an annex with examples of best practice. When we speak about persistence and resilience, what we are speaking about? So, and this was feedback.
Let me ask Diogo, thank you. Let me ask Maggi, because I just want to find out. Maggi, you are an athlete and you have been discussing and dealing with this issue of developing skills of athlete for the labor market now for years. And including you have been working tirelessly with the ADECO group and the IOC. So do you think that this kind of tool is actually implementable at the level of the athletes? Because at the end, we are trying to do here to find out common solutions and things that are achievable and deliverables. Do you think, because it's the first time that I see this, it's very interesting. Thank you, Diogo, so much for this. Well, I just want to ask Maggi, what do you think? This can be understood positively by the athletes, or it is something that they might not focus automatically on?
Are you able to see my screen now, Giovanni?
I see your name there.
I'm trying to. Okay, you see now so you see me on camera, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to share my screen. Can you see
we can
my
see
screen
screen
now? Can you see it now? Because I can't see what I'm
There
showing.
is no started screen sharing, yeah?
Yeah, because maybe I think what Diogo was explaining, I think it coincides to many studies. You know what, we also did one big study between 2018 to 2019 to try to understand what are the core 8 attributes or key attributes athletes bring into the labor market. And some of them, coincidentally, like Diogo was mentioning, resilience is one of them. And you know, this as an athlete, when someone told me when I was retiring and you know finished university, someone told me you are resilient and therefore this you know will help you to get a job into the labor market, I probably would have said, well, how? Explain to me how that will help me. You know, what does that mean? You know, what, as far as I know, I should have hard skills. I should have a university degree. I should know, you know, I should be a doctor. I should be a coach. I should be a psychologist. You know, these are the kind of things that athletes get very stressed about. And how you make an athlete understand that being resilient, especially in today's world, is a very important skill. It's fundamental. So the way we've done it at the Adecco Group was to kind of bring those skills in a much smaller framework and try to also see how you measure it. You know, so if you tell an athlete you are resilient, or you are a great communicator, or you are an ambassador, you have business acumen, you know how to promote a brand, how do I measure that, and what does that mean for my career choices? So within the Adecco Group framework, what we did was to build a tool to help athletes understand whether they score high on those attributes. And then afterwards, what does that mean for career choices? Because I think as an athlete, it's great to know you've got all these skills. And you know, whether it's Diogo's research, the research done by other stakeholders, what is really important for an athlete is practically to know, okay, I am resilient. The research said I'm a great communicator, or you know, when I go to the Adecco Group tool, I score high on that. But what does that mean for my career choices? What practically does that mean? Where do I go? And I think that's exactly where we need to work more, to be more specific. Then after you know you get those skills, you have them, you score high or low on those skills, what does that mean for the future of my life, for my, I would say, what we call the lifelong employability journey that you have? And then afterwards, what does that mean for my career plan? Because if I'm a great communicator, maybe I should go into, you know, broadcasting, or, you know, commentator, or TV, or, you know, focus more on those things. But then afterwards, practically, what are the other things I need to learn?
Yes.
And Emilio was saying, oh, you need to learn new digital skills in today's world. So it's really that journey, especially for athletes, or people that are practicing sports. How do we map that journey from the recognition of those skills to my career choices, to the additional things I need to learn in the future? So maybe, I don't know, Giovanni, I hope it helps. I see.
I think it helps a lot. And I see here there is a very active Daniela, who is indicating, Daniela Racic, who is indicating, as a former athlete, I always say I have learned to perform at the highest level in a team under pressure. And then once the employer asks me, what skills do you have then? So what do you think are the key skills one athlete brings in? So that's a question. Who wants to respond to this? Because I think it's important, the question. And there was also another question from Daniela as well about the fact, how do they turn the skills down at the level when you, the employers are actually saying, okay, you know, you are an athlete and so on, but basically there are skills which are not recognized. I think in that one, I can respond by saying skills is something you are, it's portable. You know, there are soft skills, employability skills by definition are also related to the job you are applying to, the job you are handling, the job you want to have in future. While the soft skills is something that are part of your own journey in life. We are born with them and we can develop them further. So But the second question about the performance, yes, you were always accustomed to perform at the highest level. Don't we continue to do it in life when we perform every day with our own job? I mean, that's kind of it's something, unfortunately or fortunately, we are accustomed to do. I see a picture there with the athletes program. Is this the one from Adecco Group, right?
Yeah, I just came because I was trying to share before, so now you could see it. Maybe it helps for Daniela. It's one way to see it, but I'm sure Diogo has, in his research, it looks like he went further and more in depth into this. But this, what the picture is showing, is the Adecco Group framework to help athletes on career transition understand what are the key skills that employers are looking for in the labor market. And so we try to be futuristic about this as well, and maybe thinking more outside the box of, you know, teamwork or leadership, which we know athletes have that as part of their sporting career, but more about the importance of being resilient, more about the importance of athletes being positive disruptors. And that you have to do as an athlete. You constantly have to look at the ecosystem and see how you differentiate yourself from competitors. And that's something athletes bring into the workplace. So I don't know, Daniela, if that helped you, but maybe I could also give the floor to Diogo or any other colleagues that have done similar research to explain athlete skills and attributes. But that's
just before that, we have now we have just 10 minutes to go. Actually, slightly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think we have to make sure that we get with some kind of resolution with respect to the steps ahead. So number one, as Alberto was rightly pointing out, Alberto said, you know, yes, you know, we can talk about academics, theory of change, peer-to-peer review, and so on, but at the end, we have to be very grounded. So on one side, we can use more difficult words, but we are grounded on what we want to achieve. He indicated, you know, we need funding, and funding, we need projects, basically. And or we need to lobby to make sure that at the policy level we are heard, and then things are coming and down with some funding. So I want Alberto to develop that one. And then I would like to each and one of you to respond to this question. Diogo pointed out the issue of resilience in athletes. But beyond athletes, we are all athletes. I am an athlete. I competed at the time. I always felt I was an athlete throughout my career in professional life. I always connect with something which is related to athletes or myself as an athlete when I come to some difficult times like the pandemic. Give me an example, give us an example of what you have been using throughout the pandemic when it comes to a use of skills in the time of the pandemic. So first, Alberto, grounded funding. Where are we going to go next step? Please tell us. And then each and one of you telling me, how do you use your skills at this point in time into the pandemic, starting with Carol. Alberto first.
Okay, thank you, Giovanni. I guess that, as always, you know, you've mentioned it. I think that first, you know, different stakeholders, such as the one that are included in the GNSS, have to have a common vision. Okay, and so this is exactly the position paper that we have put forward. Then we have to start building the different blocks of this vision and, you know, outline what we could call a roadmap on how we're going to go about. And I'm sure that there will be different building blocks in this roadmap. One of the building block is indeed, you know, defining the lobbying objective that we want to achieve. For instance, we want to make sure that at the highest political level, at the European Commission, you know that in Brussels there are three main institutions, Commission, Parliament, and Council. We can start by the first one. We will say at the highest level of the European Commission, we want to make sure that skills will be very, very high on the political agenda. And so we start to analyze a little bit who is in charge of the skill dimension. And here within the European Commission, you have DG GROW, which is in charge of the skill dimension. This is the department in charge with companies in general. But then, of course, if you want to discuss about skills in sports, you would also have to land very clearly at the level of the commissioner in charge of sports, Maria Gabriel. And so once you have outlined this, you have to start, bringing forward all the other building blocks, Giovanni. And so, for instance, if I'm sharing now again my presentation, there are different phases in, I would say, outlining a project, and hopefully you can see my screen now. And these different phases are, the idea. So we would have to outline a little bit the idea of the project that we want to bring forward. And this is very much in line with what Carol was saying before on the AVOL project, but also on what Diogo was mentioning right now about this other project. And so once you have defined the idea, you have to start shaping, the different work packages. You have to start identifying who will do what. And finally, you will have to start drafting the project, submitting it, and hopefully wait for a positive evaluation. This is just one pillar, Giovanni, but of course there are many more pillars, and ultimately I think that we can go as far as I would say the total amount of partners within the GNSS wants to go. And this is a little bit where we need to engage in the next steps, according to me, Giovanni.
Yeah, I like it, because you are indicating there is a need for project development and log frame, which is clear, with monitoring and evaluation, identifying needs, etc. Yeah. But the component of the GNS are rich, and we can go up to the level of lobbying in policy area at whatever is the organization, which I like it very much. Carol, do you want to develop more on this, or you want to respond to my former question? How do you use resilience, for example, in your own day-to-day work? Because we are in a situation which is very exceptional. Each and one of us use different skills to go through and to surf out. We only have 4 or 5 minutes to go. So you have 1 minute. Go ahead.
Okay, so let me go to the last question. And I think that, of course, the skill that I have most developed is creative thinking. I have to start thinking outside of the box. I have to start thinking of how I will create impact with my projects, even though we cannot meet each other, even though I cannot witness how the implement a training course virtually, etc. So this is this creative thinking, this way of, okay, we have to do things different, but at the same time, we have to create an impact. I think is one of the skills that has brought to me. And of course, empathy, teamwork. Now more than ever, you need to find a feeling with people through the cameras. Yes. And that's a skill. Look, it's not the same thing. And it has brought a lot. And I also think the way, at the same time, it has helped us to exchange ideas and to change things into reality faster because now everyone can, connect and we talk and discuss. Then it's a challenge, and we all want to go back to our normal. But I think that the new normal will be a hybrid normal, where we accept and take the benefits and the outcome of this, of how it pushed us to think differently, and of course bringing back the good things from before the pandemic and put it together, and it will be a new way of implementing things.
Thank you. Emilio, where is Emilio? I can't see him.
I'm here.
Yeah, go ahead. You have your minute.
I already mentioned this, but I want to make emphasis on it as well. The good communication, adaptability, and I think efficiency in the way you communicate with people. Since, right now you have scheduled lots of meetings, so you have to be very precise and very straight to the point on how you share your ideas and be able to share it without having this, as Carol was mentioning, this physical feeling of you seeing the people, how he's sharing the message to you. because the camera doesn't allow you to see maybe the hands or maybe part of the other body. So I really think that one thing that I really learned in ICSS, it was like having good communication and good leadership from the above to the bottom. It's essential so things can happen in the way we need to happen. I mean, this we don't need it only in this moment, but I think not being able to see people, you have to be really like great.
You have to connect. You have to go for them. You have to connect with them, basically.
Yeah.
Not only see people.
Yeah.
Thanks, Emilio. Magi.
Thank you, Giovanni. I think we have just a couple of minutes left, or maybe just one, actually. What I would like maybe to say, I think the COVID-19 have challenged us in many different ways, and in ways I think are very difficult. But I think it's also an opportunity. And I think from my side, is more to look at the opportunity. There are many things we are learning in a rush, but many things that, will help us to shape the new norm and the future. And I think one of those things is really the topic of this panel, and the topic that we want to address through a global network of skills learning and through sports. And for me, it's more a call to action for those people that have been in the panel, for those that may listen to the recording afterwards. Is really, how could we continue working together towards the recognition of those skills, towards also mobilizing stakeholders to, influence those that make decisions about the importance of those skills for employability, and for, building even more resilience through a new way of living that has been imposed by the pandemic. And I think sports will play a fundamental role, not only from the physical perspective, but also from, I would say, the mental and employability perspective of people across the world. So that would be my call to action.
Thank you, Magi. So I will actually allow Diogo to take my minute to conclude on the user skills, because with Diogo, you are surprised. You expect something and then he comes up with something else. So that's part actually of the skills that we acquire under those circumstances. So Diogo, what have you been learning out of this process where resilience is so important? You only have 1 minute, by the way.
Thank you. In a nutshell, what I think it's more useful is in line with what Alberto said, and explain eventually in another session what was the method that we used to do this, because we went to athletes, and former coaches. We didn't just stand here. Mm-hmm. I would like to say that our take on this part after 3.5 years of project is that the most important is awareness raising. Our sports organizations, employers, almost everyone is not well aware of the potential of those skills. So we have to look for the useful effect. Awareness is the first, and that is the purpose of the charter. And second, useful practical tools. So like that amazing image of Adecco, it's exactly that is we need to do. I like those qualities. Allow me to conclude with this note. The process of building this network will generate so many spillovers, like we felt with the charter. We were asked to translate the charter to other language. And the charter, I hired particularly a person to be in my team in ICSS Inside, a former athlete, basketball player, Spanish. So as a Portuguese, I think I'm unsuspicious. And he made an amazing job in revising the charter and consulting. I think EU athletes, and particularly Paulina Tomovic, should be engaged in this process. EU athletes are work very well in this area, and they are left alone many times. And congratulations to you, Giovanni, and inspiring as always.
Thank you, Diogo, for the suggestion. So I'll conclude. Number one, I want to thank you everyone for individually and collectively for the work. Number two, as always, we always try to use the opportunities of an exchange. This one was basically a more formal exchange as we learn from each other. So we come up with some new ideas today as we did not have. And number three, we are very direct in our conversation as always. So in a way, you see Alberto rejecting his role as an academician, but basically reminding us to be very grounded and so on. And I think it completes very much with what we want to do at any time in stage. So we just closed for today, but we are ready to connect anytime soon in another session. And stay well and safe, and see you soon. Thank you so much.
Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
You.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.